afternoon, everybody. I'm Angela Leung. I'm the director of the Hong Kong Institute for the Humanities and Social Sciences. Welcome to this afternoon talk by Dr. Veronica Mack. Dr. Veronica Mack is an anthropologist trained at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and she is currently an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology in the Hong Kong University. Her research interests are very close to what we do at the Institute. She works on food, heritage, and politics in China and Hong Kong. She has a book to be published, or maybe it's already out. I am not sure. It's supposed to be published by University of Hawaii Press in this year, called Milk Craze in China, Body Science and Hope. And she also has quite a few book chapters and journal articles on food and health topics like that. We are very glad that she will deliver this talk today. Her talk is called "From Medicine to a Staple Food: How Science and Tradition Are Shaping the Milk Production and Consumption in Modern China." This talk is co-organized by two clusters at the Institute. One is a collaborative research-funded project called Making Modernity in East Asia, Technologies of Everyday Life, 19th to the 21st Century. And there is precisely a sub-theme under this project, which is called Food Technology. And Dr. Mack's talk is very relevant to this sub-theme. And the other cluster, which is also very interested in Dr. Mack's work, is a new cluster we are setting up, which is called Delta on the Move: The Becoming of the Greater Bay Area from the 17th century to today. And again, under this cluster, we include a subgroup working on environment, food, diseases, and so on. So we are very happy that Dr. Mack will talk about this very interesting topic today. So she will talk about 50 minutes, and then my colleague, Dr. Ghazal Mohsin, will moderate after her talk. If you have questions at any time during the talk, please post your questions or comments. The Q&A, you click on the Q&A part, and then you can post your questions and comment. And then Dr. Mohsin will moderate, will read out the questions, and Dr. Mack will answer the questions. So let us welcome Dr. Mack.
Okay, thank you very much for Professor Leung for very clear and precise introductions. So without any delay, so let me start. Okay. So first of all, let me give you two snapshots about the milk in China. First of all, okay, not too long before 1980s, it is in the field of anthropology and history, as Francois Savant had pointed out in 2011, there's almost no study of milk in China. It has been largely left out of anthropological and historical study because it's assumed that Chinese people are lactose intolerant, and that's why there's no Asian milk culture in China. And in addition to that, cultural materialist, okay, Malthus Harris, he also once pointed out in 1985 that Chinese people are lactophobia. As I quote, okay, let me read out one of his quotes. The Chinese and other Eastern Southeast Asian people do not merely have an aversion to the use of milk, they love it intensely, reacting to the prospect of going down a nice cold glass of the stuff, which much as Westerners might react to the prospect of a nice cold glass of cow saliva. So it's how he described that it is termed the aversion conditions of the Chinese towards milk. But just within around 30 decades, we found there's such a dramatic change in the milk consumption in China. Now, okay, China is the second largest milk market in the world. Predicted by next year, China will be the largest. In addition to that, Chinese consumption of milk is stirring global wave of, is disturbing the whole supply chain as well. For example, we got news in 2018, I think, yes, China's thirst for baby formula is creating problems for Australia shoppers and staff. But it's not only in Australia. My research showed that there's globally. There's a global demand of including formula milk or other kind of milk that is disrupting the whole supply chain. You even find videos showing how crazy the milk customers are grabbing the milk. You find the description is the crazy shoppers. So describing how Chinese people are thirst for milk. So these two, okay, I just want to contrast two conditions. Okay, one is talking about 1980s, that nobody is talking about China, the milk culture in China, versus just 30 years. Okay, there's such a dramatic change. So this sets today's agenda. Two core questions I would like to raise today. Is there actually really no milk culture in nascent China? Secondly, how has milk become a kind of stable in China? And what can be its consequence? First of all, okay, let me look into milk culture in ancient China. So my argument is that, okay, there's significant proof is milk is being used as a kind of medicine in China. Based on ancient texts, compendiums of materials manufactured, so milk is very clearly used as a kind of medical food based on the yin-yang principle. Milk in China is very much openly and creatively used for medical functions. It's not only limited to cow's milk, goat's milk, or sheep milk that we are familiar with nowadays, but also yak milk, dog milk, even pig's milk. Okay, for examples, milk, okay, for babies is based on the yin-yang principles. Babies are particularly hot. And instead of our familiar cow's milk, in fact, pig's milk is best for the babies because pig's milk is particularly cooling. Cow's milk, comparatively speaking, is also cooling, but not as cool as pig's milk. So cow's milk is not so good for people who are a little bit weak or a little bit cold, the body propensity. So it's better to warm up the cow's milk before drink. And also, if, for example, a particular baby or person is particularly cold, it's better to boil the cow's milk together with ginger and spring onion. Other kinds of milk, such as the goat's milk, is regarded as warm and is good for people suffering from stomachache or heart pain. Sheep milk is also regarded as warm, so it's good for curing mouth ulcers and whitening the skin. So maybe this is probably one of the earliest whitening, okay, recipes, okay, in ancient time. Lastly, dog milk. How should we use it? It's good for preventing hair loss. In addition to fresh milk, which is used as a kind of medical food, there's another kind of dairy products called lard. So it's a little bit like what we found the cheese in Western society. It has been used as part of the diet of the ruling class since the Han Dynasty. There are two main types of Chinese cheese, you can say. One is wet and soft. One is dried and hard. For the wet and soft type, okay, how did they make it? So it is with big use of the aged lard as a kind of remnant to the milk. They add that to the milk after heating it to facilitate protein coagulations. We stir it vertically and horizontally for around 10 minutes, and the remnant gel will be formed. Cool it down, cover with thin cloth for a night for the formations of milk curd. How about the dried one? So this one you can still find it in many parts in northern part of China, including Tibet and in Mongolia. And also I bought it and ate it before. So it is so hard that you can't bite. So it's very different from Western hard cheese, that this is like a raw form. What is it for? How can we eat it? So in fact, it is very portable. And I would say it's an early form of powdered milk, but it is like a raw form that you can store for years. That is good, okay, right? You can store up the milk easily without refrigeration. More than that, okay, you can use hot water to reconstitute it to become reconstituted milk, both for human and even for little cows. Okay, so how we make it? We evaporate the milk under the sun, skim the cream on top, and then stir fry to curd milk to form this kind of dry dough. Second type of dairy products, okay, we call Shue. Shue is made from flour, okay. So it's a butter like the best is made from yak milk, followed by cow and sheep milk based on Asian Chinese literature. How we make it? Boil the milk for 3 minutes, cool it down, and skim the cream. So it is the same procedures as we make the lao. And then we boil the milk curd and extract the oil. So we just leave the oil for fermentation, and that's the soup. Next, tihu. So it is resembling Indian ghee and clarified butters based on Schiffer's arguments. This kind of sweet oil skim from the boiling of Shue is particularly precious because we only can make 3 to 4 liters of tihu from 5 kilograms of soup. So as a kind of, okay, and as we can look at it, okay, these 3 dairy items. Okay, the Shue is made from lao and tihu is made from Shue. So that's why in Buddhization text, they use these 3 dairy products as a kind of symbolic meaning, okay, as it resembles a kind of enlightenment process of Buddha, okay, that we step by step, okay, start with the lowest lao, and then highest stage is Shue, and the highest stage, most prestigious, is tihu. So that's what we have a term called tihu den guan, okay, that is we reach the highest stage of being a Buddha. There are medical functions for the lao, Shue, and tihu, also based on the propensity of the milk, where the mammal's milk comes from. For example, cow's milk is regarded as cooling, right? Still remember all of you. And okay, that's why cow's lao and Shue have a kind of cooling and detoxification functions. Versus sheep lao and Shue, it is warming and nourishing. For tihu, this is sort of neutral. Okay. You can strengthen the bones and marrows, and it can be used as a kind of medical ornaments for dry skin or bleeding nose. The last dairy items I want to talk about, and that is very related to my research products, okay, is called rubin, okay, or called rufu. It's kind of milk cake. So it is made, okay, it's a sort of milk crepes made from all kinds of milk. We can make it from water buffalo or other kind of yak or goats. We stir the milk for 5 to 6 minutes. The major difference between rubin and also the lao is that we add the vinegar, okay, to make the milk cake instead of just use the aged rennet to put into the milk. So we mold the milk by pressing it under the stone, okay, and store it in a salt-laden container. So we can that is the item, okay, we can still also find in modern China. One is in Yunnan. That is a kind of milk cake also made from goat milk. So you can see in the pictures that this is really like, okay, a kind of cake form. And another one, I would say, argue, it is in Sunda, which I research on, it is exactly the same procedures, but it is more like very thin chips forms. So I would like to show a short videos. The ladies in the videos, I have already, also in the field, I have met her every day, okay, in Sunda when I did the field work. And so it is exactly how she looked like, okay, when I met her. So just take a quick look about how she, okay, on this. Okay, let's watch this. So let me show you the pictures about, okay, you see these ladies, okay, you can, on one hand, she got the milk, okay, she boiled the milk first. And then there's also about boiled vinegar. So she poured a little bit, okay, in a small container, a small bowl, as you can see here. It's around 1.5 inches in diameter. She poured the hot milk together with the vinegar, and then she stirred with the 2 fingers. And then she swung it and throw it on a mold, a wooden mold. She pressed against the mold, squeezed the excess milk out, and throw it into this pool of salt water. So this is, and it looked like this. So it is still we can find in it is being eaten on a daily basis by local people, and this nuru is also can be found bought in Hong Kong as well. So this is the water buffalo in Sundar, and now this kind of milk cheese, water buffalo milk cheese, is being sold in Sundar and also regarded as a kind of cultural heritage. One of the informants is now she's one of the very experienced cheesemaker. She's located in the Western Mountain Temple, one of the heritage temple in Sundar, where the tourists always go. Because of the cultural center manager invite her to build a shop here so that she can show the heritage of Sundar to the tourists. So the shop is also stationed in the temple as well. And also there are other places we can eat this kind of water buffalo cheese. It is when we look into why Sundar, okay, is in South China have this kind of cheese, but not in other places in China. For example, in Hong Kong, we also have water buffalo. Why there's no cheese culture in Hong Kong? Okay, so we need to look into the Asian text where the milk cheese can be found. We found that it is found in Longjiang, okay, in Bijiang, and also in Daliang. In these three places, one commonality is that these three places are with the people that are quite rich. Okay, one is they sell the silk and trade the silk. In Bijiang, they made the paper that's also very expensive. In Thailand, they are specialized in silk making and also the banking industry as well. For example, in Bijiang, they even have a chance, okay, talk about the water buffalo cheese. So there's a chance read like that. Enjoy tea without wine is popular, accompanied with a piece of just baked cake, which is being sold only in town. Palatable is the homemade water buffalo cheese, yet it is not as good as the famous Shue from the far side of the border. So from this chance, okay, we know that they have interaction with the aristocratic group, and they are well aware of the Shue. That's the famous one is from the border. So these three places, the people are very rich, and also in addition to their being rich, they are able to have a lot of son, okay, that can be educated, and they have also become the Chinese officer because they have done well in the examinations. So because of the influence, okay, of the royal family and aristocratic groups, okay, this kind of milk culture is diffused in Sundar, in places, and also including in Longjiang, and also later in Daliang as well, because Daliang is also very rich because of selling of silk and being a financial center in the south, in Qing Dynasty. Even nowadays, okay, milk cheese is used as a kind of medical functions. If those who are familiar with the food culture in Hong Kong, maybe you can recognize him. He is Mr. Tam. He is the owner and also the famous chef of Sundar cuisine in Hong Kong. He also opened Feng Seng Zhao Ga, which was recently closed, I think, in the past 3 years. I interviewed him and I met him for several times. He told me that when he was small and raised in Sundar, he eats the milk cheese when he was sick. There's a saying he told me that 牛乳送竹，好人有相. That means that, okay, only people, if you are sick, you probably are fit with corn cheese with cheese. So Nuru is particularly famous for feeding sick people because it's nurturing for babies and also for the elderly. In addition to the water buffalo cheese, water buffalo milk is also cooked as a kind of food at Kuping. For example, Auntie Learn and other informants, she told me that when her granddaughter is too thin, she cooked her with double-boiled chickens in buffalo milk that is particularly nurturing, and she become healthy and also become fat and cute afterwards. The third type is a more common one that is also being commercialized. It's the double-boiled, double-skin water buffalo milk that's really widely available in the dessert shop in Sundar. But this is also a kind of recipe used at home that, for example, particularly good for the lady keeping the skin beautiful. Of course, they may not necessarily add some sugar, but they do double boil the water buffalo milk regularly, especially during the winter time, for health and beauty. However, medicine are now gradually become a kind of stable in China. So I will analyze it from two main perspectives: the importance of science, and also Chinese traditions in milk productions and in consumptions. So for Western science and milk productions, I trace back to the 1910s to 1950s. Because when we talk about the milk and the consumption rise in China, usually people immediately in their mind will say that, oh, China is becoming modern, economically growth a lot, people got so prosperous and wealthy, and they can have food that they can't have before, so much better life. So it's indicating kind of better life, modernity, prosperity, right? However, one important thing that the ideology that milk is good for health and also good for the body is very much can be traced back to the 1990s, starting with the May 4th movement and with the advocacy of Mr. Science that we use the Western science to strengthen the national body, including using the science to improve the military force and also the nutrition science to strengthen, to improve the diets of the Chinese people, especially the young people. However, this not become feeding young kids, especially the babies, with Western milk powder. It's not popular at all because during this time, is very much influenced by home economies to mediate through the Japanese home scientists. And they advocate that the breast milk of mother is still the best for the babies. It was, in fact, the Western dairy company and also pharmaceutical companies who push a lot about marketing to support their argument that this milk powder is good for the baby. This is very much driven by the surplus milk powder supply in America and Europe, and also in the colonial cities like Australia. During the wartime, military force with powdered milk and condensed milk. So even before the war end, there is already surplus of condensed milk and milk powder that was not used in the hometown because condensed milk and milk powder is mainly used for baking food, but not for reconstitute as milk. So they want to expand the East Asian markets, and very much they push the marketing for the babies. And like as you see in the ad, that they emphasize that strengthen the nations. You have to strengthen the people. Strengthen the people, you need to strengthen the babies by using Western milk powder, and also in other ads for condensed milk. And also gradually the foreign dairy farms, also gradually converted by local uses, mainly on the military force. So there's a strong starting have a kind of association between the Western milk and also the national building national body, and also good for the young people as well. And I would say that the mainly dramatic increase in milk consumption in China is not only after the economic reform, it's very also because of the industrialization of milk industry in China. Starting from 1980s, there's a privatization of the state-owned dairy companies. The CCP, emphasized a lot, in industrializing the dairy industry by attracting foreign investment. They have implemented policy like tax reductions to attract foreign investors, GDP-oriented government policy, so that the local government will be very much push the industrialization of the local industry. Like in Mongolia, the autonomous regions government, they use dairy industry as a pillar of their GDP growth. And Yili and Mengniu is at that time grow, is even trumped over the half-century-old Bright Dairy within just 10 years' time. So, but I will argue that, food packaging technology in particular is in fact the major reasons for the dramatic increase, of the milk consumptions. Why? Tetra Pak and China want to expand the market. Tetra Pak look like this, the paper pack drink packaging technology. So the technological companies from Sweden, Okay, this UHT kind of packaging enabled the milk to store in room temperature for over half a year. This is particularly important for milk in production and consumption in China because on one hand, the local people that not necessarily all have refrigerator, and especially in rural area, and also for the retail shop. More important is for transportation. It much lower the transportation cost. And Yili and Mengniu is make use of the UHT to expand the market dramatically and lower the price, particularly Mengniu. How? For example, Tetra Pak, they want to develop new product line, and this one, is a kind of like a plastic bag kind of container, but it was not. But it is a paper bag. It was not popular in Europe or America because people are so used to this type of packaging that they don't think this kind of pillow-like pack is for milk. But for Mengniu, it doesn't matter because anyway, milk is quite new to the local people. As long as the price is reasonable, people will try the milk. So Tetra Pak is willing to give Mengniu 2 production lines that is free of charge in such a way that Mengniu can decrease the price for the milk half than that of Yili. And immediately, there's such a huge demand that it became the leader at that time for the milk products. So you find in China market, one unique thing is that the UHT milk form a majority, quite a majority of the dairy products. And Mengniu is, and also Yili as well, is continuing using the Tetra Pak to rejuvenate some of the product line, including like the organic milk nowadays. And so as you can see, that this is the red line is the dramatic increase of the milk consumption in China versus in other countries is dropping down. The major increase not before, 2008, and also until now. So this is after Tetra Pak that have held Mengniu and Yili and have the conversions of the milk with using UHT packaging. And I have a chance that when I worked as a food consultant before academia work, I visited Mengniu's factory, and I found this is huge office of Tetra Pak located inside Mengniu's office. So you find this a very close collaboration between them in productions. In addition to the Western food packaging technology, we also find the nutrition science technology helped a lot, in milk production and consumptions. So this is a government in fact, have an official guidelines on the dietary, recommend people to drink milk every day, 2 to 3 cups. It is a borrow of the 1980s food pyramid in USA. And also one of my informants, she's a renowned doctor, and also she's also specialized in using food as a kind of preventive medicine. She also told me that she and also her colleagues in Hong Kong helped a lot in the nutritionists in China in developing their guideline. And in Hong Kong, they still use this kind of pyramid, not following the latest model. And even nowadays, the food coders in China is also following very much resemble the food pyramids in USA. As per Merson Nestle in her book, Food Politics, she pointed out that there's a particular single out of dairy products in the food pyramids is due to politics, right? There's the politicians are supported by the funding of the dairy industry. So that's why they have to have a separate category for that. The reasons in China is different. Instead of having the politicians as a kind of beneficiaries, the government, in fact, push the dairy industry. For example, in 2006, the leaders of CCP, Wen Jiabao, said that he has a dream that he wants everyone in China can enjoy 1 din or 500 grams of milk every day. And more recently, in 2014, we have the President Xi Jinping. So he gave a speech about the new China man is drinking of milk as well. He also joined Yili in his launch of the Ocean's production base in New Zealand. So from these two and also many other examples, we see the top leaders in CCP are in fact actively support the dairy industry in China. And so no wonder there's a huge increase in the productions and consumption in China. For example, in 2019, China has already become the 5th largest dairy producer in the world, not only the largest consumption of milk. And the dairy industry, okay, with the goal of shifting, okay, the small-scale herbs to larger industrial factory farms to keep the population 1.4 billion in milk is one of the important items in the agenda of the 13th Five-Year Plan of CCP. However, okay, not only science, okay, important in production, but also in consumption. Even though we have huge production, if there's no consumption, there's no use, right? People may not necessarily drink the milk, even though you have a huge productions. So science plays a very important role in mobilizing people to drink milk. How? So the Western milk is very much used, Western nutrition science is very much used in marketing by the pharmaceutical companies and also dairy companies in China in promoting milk. And that is, we still remember the new China Man dream, okay, of the new direction of Chinese government. And very much, okay, there's an emphasis of the knowledge economy nowadays. And family are very much desired to have the babies to develop in a way that they become competitive, okay, in the knowledge economy. And that fits the traditional Chinese family value, is that you have the kids to be like developed like a dragon. So the birth comes to the mother first, okay? When she was bearing the baby, she needs to take the DHA enriched formula milk that is supposed to believed to be good for the brain of the baby. And also dairy company and pharmaceutical company, they spend so much money on cracking the components in breast milk. So I attend some of the scientific conference. They emphasize that still nowadays, the chemical components inside the breast milk is still mysterious. Still the top scientists, they cannot find out all the components. Once they find out one component that is billion-dollar value, because it immediately becomes one of the selling points in formula milk, as you can see in the MFGM. This is a kind of new, okay, element found in breast milk recently. So immediately this was used to add to the formula milk and you found that this is also good for the brain development. So, okay, this kind of nutrition science and chemistry become a major driving force for the consumption of milk among the consumers. And you'll find in China very much this kind of nutrition, okay, inside the formula milk is for getting a good result in examination. Okay, you see the symbolic tick, okay, here, and also obviously in the promotion message, it matched drinking of milk with the capacity to learn and get good results. So this gentleman, university graduate, excel in other extracurricular activities in sports will be the ideal poster child of the parents and grandparents will look upon, hope that their babies will become one day. So that is how the Western cow's milk is being promoted in China. It's getting A grade, A level of development. And however, one usually overlooked aspect is that, okay, Chinese medical traditions are being used in Western cow's milk development, okay? It is not only science. So how Chinese medical beliefs are being used in the consumptions of Western milk? First of all, okay, it has been, in fact, Chinese medical solutions have been continuously being used by the parents, especially the mother, in solving some of the side effects of modern milk consumptions. So usually people will ask me questions, how come the Chinese people can drink so much milk nowadays? Aren't they lactose intolerant? There are two main recent findings is that if you drink, even though those people who are lactose intolerant, if you drink milk below the quantity of 2 glasses, the syndrome of lactose intolerance will not be so obvious. Okay, the second reason is that if you continue to feed the young people with milk starting from they are babies non-stoply until they are adults, the body can graduate, okay, to develop in a mechanism that can tolerate the lactose. So these are two main reasons. However, still, okay, we find that there are some side effects, okay, on drinking foreigner Western milk. And so even in some of the modern formula milk, they emphasize on that is they have a sense of added enzymes, okay, or other kind of elements, nutritions that can help for the digestions. So this is also emphasized in this poster. So for traditional, okay, Chinese medicine doctor, they will also help the parents that if they have found the symptoms of the babies or young kids that they have indigestion problem, they can either, okay, drink some of the, they have food recipe like the hao from, okay, sanja, or this kind of carrot soup that can solve the problem of indigestions due to 急事, okay, 即食. That means that this is a result from over nutrition. So you may find this is a sort of ironic, right? Because you have too much nutrition. So you need to have another medical way, okay, to get rid of too much nutrition. So why don't you have less nutrition in the beginning? So anyway, this is how the modern society is going. We have consuming a lot of food, and then we have to have remedy of getting rid of some of the nutrition that we consume too much. Okay, Chinese medicine are also used in the product development of Western milk products, like the Guangming, okay, the bright dairy yogurt. So they developed a line of yogurt is based on the Chinese herbal recipe in 2007. There are three main target group, okay. One is the Shun Liang, that's targeting the young people, that is cooling and whitening, slimming, and they use the recipe like okay, lily, and also chrysanthemum, okay, the gofa. So the second line is targeting at the woman with the beautifying benefits. Okay, they name it as Yun Yan, okay, Yun Yan. So that they have the they include the Chinese medical food like the red dates, woodberries, and mulberries. And lastly, okay, Yan Yuan, this is targeted at the elderly. So you have the nurturing functions, you have the Fukling, okay, the Fuling, okay, you have the berry and also the bergamot, Fasao. And this is one of the earliest, okay, product developed based on the Chinese medical principles and also recipe. But in fact, okay, on and off, we find kind of Western milk with Chinese elements, like they put the walnuts, they put the red beans, okay, continuously. And in 2012, there's also a huge wave of the revivals of traditional Chinese medical food, very much driven by the popular TV dramas during that time. There's an empress, the name is, the TV drama is Empresses in the Palace. So it is this is named as one of the most influential TV drama, not only in China and also in Southeast Asia as well. In this attractive TV drama, we see the empresses in the drama. They make use of the Chinese medical food to strengthen, okay, their sexual capacity and also to build alliance. For example, okay, their recipe, the most common recipe include the jiao, red dates, and woodberries. Jiao in particularly appear frequently, okay, in the drama, probably due to one of the sponsor of the TV drama is jiao producer. So it's made from the skin of donkey, horse, or water buffalo. It's believed to be super nutritious for the woman to replenish blood, nurtures fetus, good for the lung and for both men and women. And in the drama, it was used as a gift if the woman get a high status, they were given jiao, and also if they are very sick, they are also given this medical food as well. So after the launch of this TV drama, we find this recipe become part of the Western milk recipe as well. For example, in Mongliu Xin Yang Dao. So this is a new line, a product line, particularly catering for Yangzheng. So this is that they use Zhangji Yi, okay, to endorse this milk. And in her advertisement, okay, you see the whole advertisement with the red color symbolizing the red dates, woodberries, jiao, and also the blood, okay, nurturing function. And she voiced out that, okay, in the TV drama, in the TV ad, and also in YouTube as well, is widely available in YouTube video, emphasizing blood is the essence of the woman. And in the ad, okay, she is a kind of self-narrative, emphasizing she's a modern, capable woman, but she also take care of herself and her beauty, okay, in order to win in the market, and also a kind of self-care in modern time. In the more recent, okay, marketing campaigns like the Yili, they have a line called the Gok Lak Do, okay, it's the milk product with cereal. It is getting a higher and bigger market in China. This is not so much in Western society, but it is popular in China because some of the ladies use this as a kind of milk replacement because you're adding cereal inside the milk. So it is food, it's a filling. While the men will also eat it for a kind of energy snack. You find, okay, in the ad, okay, it's very much emphasized on the beauty, the figures and sexual figures, okay, or attractiveness of the woman. This one line is called Hong Yan. Hong Yan is a kind of Chinese term for beautiful woman, right? They add red beans, wolfberry, and also angelica, okay, inside the milk. And for the men, they have another recipes, okay, also based on traditional Chinese medical belief. This is the milk with black sesames, black wolfberries, and ginseng. So this is, they emphasize on the beauty and also beauty for the woman and energy for the man. So I say that this kind of added Chinese traditions in Western milk as how they promoted, showing us that it's also not only for health, but more for the modern social role that's demanded. So milk consumption is sort of like a technology to fulfill social role, but at the same time reinforcing traditional gender roles and stereotypes. As you can see, right, the mother intaking the DHA milk is very much for nurturing the babies. Women bear, okay, still the important reproductive role in producing the new Chinaman. And the babies also have the obligations to grow up to be excel in academic. For the woman, as we can see in the recent ad, is still very much stereotyped at the, as a kind of woman that have beautiful face and very sexy figures. Milk is, and Chinese medicine, okay, used in Western milk is very much for enhancing the beauty and sex capital to win in the sex, in the mate and job market. For the men, emphasizing the importance of wealth, talent, energy. As we can see in the celebrities, okay, Mr. Yao, he is a very famous and talented Xianxing, okay, Xianxing actress. So it's traditional talk show of China. So it's very much, okay, it's not so much for his face, but his talent and energy, long working out and energy for play. So this is a sort of, I would say, the essentializing the gender stereotype. However, okay, this kind of milk craze in China have the significance both in environment and the health impact. For example, okay, the rapid increase in milk consumptions, okay, in China is causing extra export of milk from Australia, New Zealand, and also Europe, okay, and America to China. For example, New Zealand, now they have 6.6 million dairy cows, okay, versus 4.7 million population. China has now become the #1 whole milk powder market for New Zealand, but it has a cost, huge environmental impact. The bulky urine caused by the dairy farm is causing toxic algae to grow. 60% of the rivers now in New Zealand are polluted, very much constituted by the huge increase in the number of dairy cows in New Zealand. By 2050, environmental scholars also point out that if Chinese people still drink milk in such a quick pace, the increase in greenhouse gas emissions will be increased by 35% by 2050. Not only milk consumptions in China have caused environmental impact. Milk consumption is usually regarded as helping kids to grow bigger and stronger. But scholars also point out that there's a global trends and patterns of commercial milk-based farmer sales is causing unprecedented infant and young kids feeding transit underway. What does it mean by transit? Nutrition transit is mean that we move from traditional diet to modern diets, causing obesity. So now it's predicted that in China by 2030, 1 in 4 Chinese children will be expected to be overweight. And okay, if we link that together, is consume too much full cream milk, meat, and also other kind of protein-rich products. And not only that, I would say that, okay, 2008 Sun milk scandal also tells us our dramatic change in diet, changing that milk consumption is almost close to zero in like 30 to 40 years ago to now we consume so much milk nowadays that most people have developed a mentality that formula milk is a must. And especially for working class people that have to consume local milk, that they have sort of higher food safety issues. And that scandal may not be necessary if more women breastfeed the milk to the kids. So this is, I think that is what my key takeaway of today is. We answered to my talk is mainly to address 2 questions. One is whether China has milk culture in ancient times. So the answer is yes, but it is mainly used as medicine, not as a kind of daily use. Secondly, how milk become a kind of staple in modern China. So it is not only driven by health reasons or economic development growth, people are getting wealthier, but more is still of social and political factors. Western science plays a crucial role in driving milk production and consumption in China, but also Chinese traditional medical principles and also kind of belief also shape consumption behavior. But at the same time, the whole marketing process is at the same time giving new hope, but also reinforcing traditional social roles and also gender stereotypes. That's the end of my presentations. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mac, for this fascinating talk and really tour de force through the history and contemporary use of milk in China. Just to reiterate, if any of the people in the audience would like to ask questions about Dr. Mac's talk, you can do that through the Q&A button in Zoom, and then I will read out the questions and Dr. Mac can answer them. Okay, we're already starting with questions. The first question comes from Suman Chakravarti. And the question is there any urban, rural, and gender difference in the consumption of milk in China?
First of all, thank you for these important questions. I think let me look at it from the social class perspective. First of all, the rural-urban difference. I would say that this is because rural-urban divide is very much affecting the income of the people. So when I did the research, in fact, the biggest marker of the consumption pattern between the rural and the urban is the brand name. What kind of brand they can buy, they can support. So for the urban people in China, most of them only want to buy imported milk. They even show their social class status by buying milk from Hong Kong. They have to bring the Hong Kong produced or Hong Kong endorsed milk because they don't trust the regulations in China. Even imported milk, they think they may not necessarily as good as those in Hong Kong. And for the rural class, they mainly consume the local brand milk. So now in China, many of the local milk, they emphasize that they are import from Australia, they are import from New Zealand, but still people have a very strong mindset that, if this is come from China brand, it's still inferior, but this is only the brand that the rural people can afford. So that is how I say there's a bigger gap between the rural and urban. So how about the gender difference in consuming of milk? So this one I will from the product, okay, the product category. So based on my study and my and also my consumer research in the past when I worked as a food consultant, women is very much consuming the yogurt, okay, rather than milk powder or fresh or the full cream milk. They also for the fresh milk they emphasize on skim milk, okay, because in modern Chinese society, okay, slimness is almost an obligation for the woman, okay, because of a number of political, social, and also gender issues. So this is the kind of product category that make the difference. So this is a very good question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. The next question comes from Tao Mo Zhou. And she asks, or she says, thank you, Professor Mac, for the amazing talk. I wonder if you could talk a bit more about milk culture in Hong Kong, especially the Vitasoy company. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, this is also one of the topic I mentioned in my book, and I don't have time to talk about it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the soy milk company. Okay, for the Vitasoy, okay, is it about Vitasoy, this company, or just soil? Vitasoy. Okay, so you talk about the Vitasoy. Okay, so Vitasoy, in fact, it is found in 1940s. Okay, after the invasions of Japan. So, Professor Dr. Law, the founders of Vitasoy, he learned about the nutrition of soy milk is in fact is borrowed from the Western science. Okay, so this is not the Chinese people who developed the scientific findings about the nutrition about the soy milk, but in fact it's from Western scientists. They have a talk in Shanghai. And Dr. Lau is in that meeting, and he immediately understands the importance of the Chinese cow milk, that is the soy milk. So he experimented in Hong Kong, starting as his voluntary work, and later he developed the company, is industrializing the soy milk in Hong Kong. And also related to today's topic is the technology of packaging. So in beginning, the soy milk is not so popular in Hong Kong because in Chinese society, soy milk is regarded as very cooling. So during the early time that when Dr. Low, he produced the soy milk, industrializing and commercializing it, there's one elderly come up to him and say that, okay, you are producing bad food, unhealthy food because it's too cool, okay, for many Chinese body. But later, gradually, people start accepting that, especially when it put into like a bottle form, like a soft drink. So so my point is that the development and industrialization of soy milk in Hong Kong, and also later become globalized of soy milk, is very much related to the development of the Western milk in Hong Kong and Chinese society as well. Yeah, thank you. Can I answer a question?
Yeah, thank you. I think we have a question from Professor Leung now.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Mac, for this very rich talk. I'm very interested in one thing that you mentioned earlier in your talk. It's really about the consumption of buffalo milk in Guangdong province. You mentioned something in the 19th century. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about the origin of this consumption pattern. Do you find, is it something that began only in the 19th century? Did it become earlier or later? And how did people see the nutritious value of buffalo milk compared with cow milk?
Oh, okay. So, Professor Leung, I missed your very first one. Do you mean that they consumed the Western milk during the 19th century, the early 20th century, or you talk about the water buffalo milk?
I'm asking, when did Cantonese begin to consume buffalo milk?
Oh, okay, buffalo milk.
Was it 19th century or earlier? Do you have earlier information on the consumption of buffalo milk, and how? And in the 19th century, for example, how did people see the difference between buffalo milk and cow milk?
I think for the earliest record is in the Ming Dynasty. So and no.
Can you give us the source? I mean, what Ming Dynasty source do you that show buffalo milk?
Well, the Ming Dynasty is come from the local government. So they developed a kind of, they have the archive, and they developed. It is not from for my okay. I will have the. It is like I look into the archive in Longjiang Gazette, and this is, I think it is not in. It is more like in Qing Dynasty. So the Ming Dynasty is the historian in Sunda. They claim that it is because they passed down from generation, and they claim that it is the family. Okay, their oral history talk about it is the Ming Dynasty. So from my record from the local gazette, it is talk about in the Qing Dynasty. So in Longjiang, Bijiang, and also in Dalian, they have this record. But the consumption is limited to the buffalo cheese. They do not drink the milk.
So they only use the milk later, because now,
Yes.
and when was the buffalo milk used by the people? I mean, when did they begin to use the milk, not the tea?
I think it's just very modern when when Western culture of milk starts to become popular. So people start to drink, okay, not only cow milk, but they also accept buffalo milk. But before that, they only eat the cheese. So this is a kind of modern phenomenon. So and it now become much more, and as I mentioned in the talk, that they use the milk to cook as a kind of dishes. So even as my informant, like like Chef Tam, and also other kind of informants that they brought up in Dalian and also in Sunda, their home recipe is more use the milk to cook as a kind part of the milk, part of the food, but not drink as a kind of fresh milk. So it is a kind of very modern phenomenon for drinking water buffalo milk, and it's also kind of revival of drinking. People drink water buffalo milk more and more in recently after the food safety problem in 2008, because the people find they no longer can trust the industrialized milk. So people go back to the water buffalo milk that is distributed by the local farmer whom they know. So they trust the people. So that is make a kind of a revival of drinking traditional milk. But in fact, the water buffalo milk is not so much Asian diet, okay, the fresh milk. I think it's also similar in Western society. What I also learned is even in America, drinking fresh milk is sort of only popular after the development of the technology of refrigerator. So before that, okay, people eat the dairy product that can be stored without the refrigeration.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. The next question comes from Matthäus Rest, and he asks, what do you think is the reason for the complete misunderstanding of Chinese milk consumption in the Western literature?
Sorry, I can't get the questions clearly. Can you?
So he asks,
okay.
What do you think is the reason for the complete misunderstanding of Chinese milk consumption in the Western literature?
Okay, could you elaborate a little bit? What do you mean by complete misunderstanding? Oh, you mean the Professor Margaret Harris? You mean that the?
I suppose so. I think it's probably referring to the scholarly literature.
Okay, so I think for those, okay, they point out is the during the 1980s or 90s, the people consuming fresh milk. So, but my point is that the milk culture is not only about fresh milk. So if we define milk culture, including like the dairy product, like the cheese. So I argue that, okay, it is the kind of the medical use and also kind of the dairy farm. That because of when the milk is being processed as a kind of other dairy product, the lactose is being taken out, so people will not feel bad, uncomfortable after consuming the dairy products. And also what Professor Harris pointed out, that Chinese people don't like fruit milk, and that's true. They don't quite like the taste of the fresh milk, but it doesn't mean that there's no Asian Chinese culture. So they just overlook that there are other kind of like cheese production and consumption culture.
Sure, yeah, thank you. Now we have two questions from Geoff Pakiam. The first is, was liquid milk, including condensed milk, ever used much in caffeinated beverages historically? And secondly, is soy milk seen as a popular alternative today? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, also very good questions. What liquid milk? Okay. Yes, you're right. Condensed milk is used very much in milk tea. And also, it is not only used as a kind of beverage, it is used as kind of food as well. We use we put the jam in, we use as if it is a jam. So we also put condensed milk on bread. So it is, but how about historically? I think historically, I would say that it's starting in the 1860 something. What I know is that like Taipingguan, that is one of the earliest Fan Taiguan in Guangzhou. So they used the condensed milk in Guangzhou in 1860s, and then they also this kind of using the condensed milk in milk tea is also brought around, like in Hong Kong. So still nowadays, we use a lot of the condensed milk in beverage, like as a sort of heritized tea in Hong Kong. So, and also on the second question, is soy milk seen as a popular alternative nowadays? Yes, that is I think it's particularly for those who are vegetarian, those who are also concerned about the fat in milk. They also will use soy milk as a kind of alternative. But if we talk about for the kids, for the young babies, only those who cannot consume the cow's formula milk, they will use the soy milk instead. So it's a sort of very much marginalized in formula milk industry. With regarding the young kids, I think soy milk is more regarded as a kind of drink, but not necessarily as sort of as a total replacement of the milk. Still, many of the parents, they emphasize that they have to drink cow's milk. But I think it is sort of, it can be partially, replace the milk. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. The next question comes from Shuking Law, and that is, thank you for the interesting talk. Could you tell us about the acceptance and consumption of milk in mainland China before the 1980s?
Before the 1980s. For the young people who before the 1980s, I would say that they consume very little milk before the 1980s. As my informants, I think they brought up in before that. I think they there are two main reasons. They are consuming milk. This is very much limited to those on middle or upper class that they can afford more expensive milk. But of course, they have been the influence of the Western science and also the increasing knowledge about the nutrition, about the cow's milk has been influencing those who are educated middle class to have more milk for their young people. But until more recently, that 1980s, that really I would say the middle and lower class can consume more milk and become more popular. But before that, it is quite limited to the elite group.
All right, thank you. The next question comes from Adonis Lee. He says, thank you, Dr. Mack, for the great talk. How have Chinese youth responded to this use of traditional Chinese medicine concepts like cooling and warming, etc., in adverts for dairy products?
I think, yeah, it's very good questions as well. This is also the great topic to invest, because now we have seen that more, this is a gradual trend of the young people in China, and more they emphasize on traditional Chinese medicine as a counter at the side effect of the Western medicine. No matter from my students and also my previous informants, they will emphasize that, okay, especially those in China, they do think that the Western cow's milk is more suitable for Western body. So with the add-on of the Chinese medical elements inside the milk drink can help them. For example, they can sleep their bodies, they can have a sort of cooling effect, okay, because the cow's milk is a little bit hot, okay, for some of the people who think that, especially the milk powder. So they will, they quite accept the Chinese element, okay, traditional element to put into the modern cow's milk. And I think one of the reasons is that there's this a trend that some of the chronic illness that in the past is more like have the sufferer is mainly on the elderly, like cancer or other kind of like heart diseases. It's more limited to elderly, but now they become younger and younger. So the young people are getting more health conscious in recent, I think it's the recent 10 years.
All right, thank you. I think that's very interesting. The next question comes from Suman Chakravarti, another one. And the question is about cow dung actually as fertilizer in China, and how far people are in terms of accepting that, I guess, given the growth in the industry. Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat the questions again? Sorry, which one?
The question is, do you have any observation about cow dung as a fertilizer in China, and to what extent people are accepting this nowadays?
Okay, this one I'm sorry to say that I'm not really an expertise, on the how fertilizer are being used nowadays. So I'm very sorry that I'm sorry that I can't really have knowledge about this.
Sure. We've got another question from Jeff Pakiam. And he asks about what role added sugar has, particularly cane sugar, in terms of changing milk consumption patterns, and whether you can date this at all. Tell us when this started, if at all.
Okay, you mean to add the sugar? For the consumption of milk, I would say that for the industrialized milk in China, especially when you talk about Mingyu and Yili, when you look into the ingredients, in fact, they are a lot is not really come from cow milk. It is, I would say, the majority from the Tetra pack is reconstituted milk. That means that, okay, it's already included like the milk powders, like the whip, sugar, not necessarily cane sugar, maybe even syrup, or other kind of component like fat to be all composed. So it is already a kind of farmer milk, I would say. So so it is have been in from the very start, even for the like sort of based on Chinese medical belief, the recipe. Sometimes you say that they may mention that it's a red-based flavor. So there's no red base inside the milk. It is only the sugar, okay, that is sugary, that is resembling the taste of red dates. So this has been added to the milk in China starting from the 1980s. So that, of course, is play a very significant role in changing the taste buds and also the expectation of milk in China.
Thank you. Anthony Chu has a question about sports events, because he notes that China's major companies in producing dairy products like Mengniu had put a lot of advertisements in the football or soccer championship 2018 in Russia, and have a lot of celebrity endorsements from Western football players. And he asks why they would have this tendency to collaborate with major sports events, and what your opinion on that is.
I think it is very, on one hand, okay, we can, from this advertising campaigns, okay, we can, on one hand, it emphasize, okay, targeting at the young people. Secondly, okay, targeting at the strength and energies that can be contributed by milk to the body. Number three is trying to make the national brand internationalized. That's very crucial, because we all understand that, okay, Monio Yili, okay, they are very strong in the price, but not strong in being an international brand that people look upon to have a higher quality standard. So by leveraging the image of international sports superstar with a local brand, it can uplift the image of a Chinese brand. So that's what I think.
If I could just follow up on that. So that means they go to the international stage, but that is not meant to attract foreign consumers. It's rather to increase, I mean, so they're still aimed at the domestic market, right? So they just want to increase their own, I guess, standing amongst Chinese consumers.
Yes, exactly. That's and also maybe you can also look into how they done their advertisement for the formula milk for the babies. They use Western babies as their models. Okay, so they are not selling to Western babies, but they will use that as a kind of imaginations, matching the Western as a kind of science and progressiveness to sell to have a imagine the body transformations of the local babies.
Oh, fascinating, yeah. We have two further questions, and they both deal with Tibet, I think. So the question is, or rather, thank you for your informative talk, Dr. Mack. As China is a vast territory involving many ethnic groups, some of them have produced and consumed milk products quite differently. Take Tibetans as an example. They have yak milk products like milk tea, butter, and so on every day. And whether you can say anything about whether their current practice, I guess, has been inherited from ancient times. And in the second question, I think it's sort of going to the same, speaking to the same question, is that nowadays you have milk products in Tibet, or rather modern Tibetan brands that have been promoted under the national framework, saying that milk products possess natural and high quality, and the question is whether you have any information about such impact on the milk culture, on the ethnic minorities like Tibetans.
So let me answer the first question first. So yes, the Tibetans they have the traditional milk cultures, yes. And if or not their practice has been heard, I would say that is yes. Okay, what I read from the now the Asian text, okay, that describe the three types of dairy products is very much now what the Tibetans have been using. For example, now even there's a kind this horse wine that still they are drinking has already recorded in ancient Chinese text. So I would say that I would say yes, okay, they have been heard from the ancient time, because the way of how they do it is so much resemble the way they do it nowadays. But regarding to the second questions about how that the milk culture impact on the ethnic minorities nowadays, right? I think what you mean by how that is being promoted under the national frame. I have not much information about that in Tibetans. I have, and also even in Monio, I don't know whether the local Mongolian people, they will drink the industrialized milk. So I don't have information. I don't see much scholar to do that. So I think it's a really good and fascinating topic to look further how that the modernization of milk in Mongolia is affecting the local people, because the industrialization in Mongolia is, in fact, I would say that creating huge environmental impact to the local people. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Do we have any further questions for Dr. Mack? Then please submit them through the Q&A. If I could ask one question, I was I think like many people in the audience, very fascinated by the advertisements you showed. And I was wondering whether you could say a bit about the regulation of these kind of advertisements. I mean, are these companies basically free to claim in the advertisements anything they want, or how exactly do the regulations work? And is that in any way connected to what the government likes to see in terms of the development of milk consumption?
Okay, so you mean in China or in Hong Kong? So these two are
in China. I was thinking.
Sorry.
In mainland China.
In mainland China, okay. So from my when I look into the regulations, I find the regulation is much loose. Okay, they didn't really implement it, okay, strictly. And especially when you see that the CCP leaders are so much into promoting the dairy consumptions in China, both for the building national image, because drinking Western kind of cow's milk is sort of kind of modern image in Western people's eyes. So there's the Chinese government is quite enthusiastic in boosting the Chinese people to drink more milk, in addition to have additional income for the milk industry. So this for both reasons, the international image and for local industry. The Chinese government hope that, okay, they do more marketing, more successful marketing in order to have more people to drink milk. So they do not really strictly on the wording. So when I read, okay, do field work, when I read the newspaper and also the magazine advertisement in China, when they have certain health claim, they don't even need to put the source of information on that. Unlike in Hong Kong, you have the fine print in the advertisement, even though nobody can read it. But even for the fine prints, I find usually the research is very vague. They didn't really talk about who did the research. They usually only group, say that this is the USA Medical Association group, they have done this research, but they have really the author or which professor done this research. So I can't find it even in the fine print in Hong Kong.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think if there are no further questions for Dr. Mack, then I'd like to thank you again, Dr. Mack, for this wonderful talk and for answering so patiently all our questions, which I think show how much interest there is in your research. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to reading your book that obviously just came out. I would also like to thank everyone in the audience for tuning in. Both the Delta on the Move cluster and the Making Modernity in East Asia cluster have more talks lined up in the future, which we will advertise as usual through email, social media, and our website. So please stay tuned for that. So I hope to see many of you in our future events. So once more then, thank you so much, Dr. Mack, for the wonderful talk. Yeah, thank you very much and see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.